Well, good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing? Hopefully, I'm coming through nice, loud, and clear, and everyone is well out there. Now, before I start, I'm just going to say, feeling a little bit under weather today. Woke up, well, I didn't get a good night's sleep at all, and I've got a headache I've had all day. So we're gonna soldier through, but because of that, I've got no cooking coming up today because I've basically been well, I cooked something, but I haven't had the chance to edit the video. But we do have, as you know, camera 1, camera 2 right here, and then we've got a third camera right here as well. But we'll be focusing mostly on camera 1 today. So let's find out if anybody's actually watching before we get into it. So first of all, we've got Adrian. Hello and welcome to the show. Hope you're well. We've got Ballycillian Allotment Man. Hello and welcome to you. Philly SPB, who sent me a lot of photos earlier. Fantastic. Amanda Joy. Hello to you. Man on Visor. Evening to you. Hope you're all well. Oracle has joined us. Hello to you and hope you are well too. Stuart Jackson is saying evening, Richard, and everyone in the Veg Army. Hope everyone is well okay today. Veg Army, as we are calling you lot out there. It's a catchy title. Hargrave Gas has joined us. Evening, everybody. Hope you are all well and had a good week gardening. We'll find out what everyone's been up to in just a moment. Ian Beddoes has joined. Good evening to you. I think, have I said Turbo Stream? I may have done, but Turbo Stream this week has been mainly pulling weeds on the plot. I sowed a short row of beetroot and salad leaf. Fantastic. Amanda Joy is saying, I've just ordered £173 worth of bulbs to save for next year for £21, including different delivery from Garden Express. End of sales season. Bargain. Absolutely. £173 worth for £21. I'm going to check that out myself once I finish. So fantastic. That sounds like a bargain. Somebody in the Facebook group has joined. Unfortunately, if you're in the Facebook group, I can't necessarily see who you are. As you can see, you just turn up as a Facebook user. Just let me know who you are, and you won't see any of my comments. Not a problem. Still lovely to see you, and thank you for joining in. Laura W has joined. Hello to you. And Ian McGorgan has joined. Hello to you. Chaffinch, Garden Express are known crooks. Check their Trustpilot ratings, about 98% negative. Oh, I did not know that. So, yeah. Trustpilot is something I always try and check whenever I shop the online from somebody I've never seen before these days. Durka has joined. Hello from British Columbia. Just trying to stay cool, watering like a mad woman. Durka over in British Columbia has got temperatures of 40 degrees C at the moment. She's been showing some pictures. It looks incredibly, incredibly hot. And my dad's joined. Good evening. Thankfully, we don't have the same sunny weather as they're having in Canada, British Columbia. Currently 10 a.m. and it's at 30 degrees C, due to rise to 37 degrees C. That's a lot of temperature going on in British Columbia at the moment. So what we always like to start off with, and I'll bring up the banners so we can get everything up and running. Phone line is open. 0773. Oh no, not that one. 07307135174. If you want to call yourself in, or alternatively, if you want to zap yourself in, the link is going up in the comments right now. So, what have I been up to this week? Well, I spent the day on the allotment yesterday, clearing out lots more weeds, getting everything back into ship shape, order. And what else did I do? I ran around with a strimmer with my new higher powered battery. Done a really good job with the strimmer, I've got to say. Do like my battery powered strimmers, my battery powered lawnmowers now. And what else? I did something really important. Oh, I harvested my onions, of course. Harvested my onions and my shallots. My onions were okay. I've had better years when they've been much bigger, but on a whole, they're pretty average golf ball sized onions this year. These are just my overwintered ones, of course. Just went black for some reason. I don't know why. These are my overwintered onions. They're just the size of a golf ball. My shallots were pointless, to be honest. Oh god, what's happening there? My camera's gone a bit funny on number 1, so luckily I'd set up camera 2 and 3, otherwise we'll be in big problem. We're just gonna have to float. Let's see if it's working. No, god, what is going on? The camera is plugged in. Let's have a quick look at the comments and see what everyone else is saying out there. So somebody has joined in the Facebook group and is watching while cooking dinner. What are you cooking? It'd be interesting to find out. Stuart Jackson, I have pricked out lettuce and peas from the Supporters Club. He's a member of my Supporters Club for the podcast. Pulled the onions and placed them in the greenhouse to dry out, leaving the garlic for another week or so. Yeah, I didn't harvest my garlic yesterday like I had planned. Not that I think it's going to be a big problem. I think it'll do okay for the time being, but I could have done with harvesting. I might go down and harvest it tomorrow after work. Steve is saying, had a good morning on the plot before the weather woke up and it rained for the rest of the day. Let's see if camera 1's working yet. No. I'm going to turn it off and on again in a minute. Katie John Rambo McDonald has joined and saying, I planted my swede seeds today for winter. I've been seeing the benefits of my homemade dandelion fertilizer. Everything thriving. Fantastic. Dandelion fertilizer, something I've not made before, but I do think dandelions have a lot to offer us other than just being pretty weeds. Dandelion honey, as you no doubt know, I've made before and is absolutely delicious. Laura W is saying, I got the news this week that I'm getting my first allotment. Fantastic. Hopefully should be able to get on into it this week. Very, very excited. Well, my first word of advice, as soon as you get your allotment, first thing you should do, go around and take some photos. That way you've always got a reference to what you started with and how far you come when you feel like you're feeling a bit like you haven't got anywhere. Turbo Stream spent an hour in his own garden today. It's like a jungle. That's why you spend an hour in there trying to get it straight. Although that's an interesting thing, actually. I've seen, certainly, just try and rest this up a bit better. Certainly in my area, they haven't been cutting the grass verges so much in order to try and encourage wildflowers to grow, which is fantastic in my opinion. I think certainly something that we need to do more and more of. But a lot of people are complaining that it looks like a jungle, and I think that's wrong. I think that's very wrong. You should make the most of it. Try and encourage. We don't need to mow the grass verges after all. It'll benefit the bees and the pollinators, which will benefit us all in the long run. Stuart Jackson has also said his overwinter onions were very small, but they will still get used. Yeah, mine, they're okay. They're okay. They're still usable. They're just not the normal size I would expect them. Never mind. We've still got food that we've produced. Ballysillian is starting to walk around the plot and all the things I've kept for years in case I've ever needed them. I'm throwing them out. Too much clutter. Yeah, it happens to all of us, doesn't it? We end up holding on to stuff, hoarding stuff, thinking we'll use it, and we just end up with sheds full of clutter. I've got it myself in here. This shed is just full of so much stuff that just gets placed, thinking I'll use it, or I'll find a home for it later, and it doesn't get used. Got to be a bit ruthless sometimes, haven't we? What else? Nigel has joined. Good evening to Muddy Boots. Good evening, or I've been painting fence panels here today and tomorrow and the day after. Very, very busy. I'm guessing this is to go on your allotment or your home garden in order to brighten the place up. Turbo Stream is saying well done to Laura on her first allotment and getting that. I think that's great. Absolutely fantastic. Ian McGorgan is asking, do you use manure on the onions? As I have clay soil and the years I've put manure on, I get bigger onions. Yes, actually, that is a good point of what might have gone wrong with my onions. Usually I get some really well-rotted onions, but this year, well-rotted manure, sorry. This year I couldn't get any well-rotted manure with COVID and everything. So I didn't do a layer of that. I just used some well-rotted compost. So I do wonder if that's why my onions were a little bit poorer than usual. Turbo Stream is saying, come on, camera one, your time is up. Let's see if it's... No, it's still static. I'm not quite sure what's gone on there because that's the newest camera out of a lot that I specifically bought for this live show. Right, who else? Beatrice has joined. Hello to you. Hope you are well. And Stuart Jackson has also harvested broad beans and harvested my pull them up and sown parsnips and carrots into the gap. Fantastic. Basically, the impression I'm getting, everybody is keeping themselves busy on their allotments, and it's all flowing, isn't it? We're getting food coming. We're getting more seeds that we can still sow. We're still planting out our plants. Everything is really going for it at the moment. Let's get rid of that. What's interesting, I'm looking on the screen that you're seeing, and you've got a slightly bigger than what I'm seeing on my screen out here. So nothing to worry about yourself about. Okay, so what did I want to chat about this evening? Well, as you can tell by the title, is what I want to know is, have you ever put goldfish in your water butts? Let's get rid of that banner. The reason I'm asking that is I've noticed in my very large water butt, which is just behind here, I'm getting some little mosquito midges in there. Unfortunately, I haven't got a lid for that one, but it's a nice big 250 litre water butt, possibly even bigger than that. It's a big one, but I'm noticing I'm getting little mosquito midges, which don't really bother me so much, but they obviously would become into or develop into mosquitoes, which might upset some of the other people. Now, I was doing a bit of research throughout the week and learning and reading that people have been saying that they put goldfish in their water butts to stop these little midges. And this doesn't sit comfortably with me, if I'm honest. I like animals. I like goldfish, but the idea of putting a goldfish in a water butt just doesn't sit nicely. Now, my first thought was actually it's not going to have much space, but when I thought about it, medium or small size goldfish tank is probably much smaller than my water butt, so that's not really an argument. It's just not going to have much for the goldfish daylight to look out at is the only difference. But the idea that they can eat the midges, that sounds pretty good to me. But also, as they poop into the water, they're going to add all their nitrogen and all that stuff out of their poop into the water butt, which is then going to go on and feed my plants. And I know when I used to keep goldfish, I used to use the water when I cleaned out the tank to water my plants, and it did make a difference. I've got to say, it did make a difference. But does anybody else keep goldfish in their water butts like I've read can be done? Let me know in the comments, or you can call in on 07307 135 174. Or you can zap yourself in on the comments now that is going up in the description, or in the comments on the link I've just added. So quickly back to the comments. Knowledge Quest has got a problem with the strawberries. As I harvest them, I am eating them. Yeah, that's not a problem. That's a good thing. It shows that you're not wasting your strawberries. Turbo Stream, on my broad beans are black fly. Central this year, I sprayed with soapy water, hoping it will work. Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to suffer. I've got to put the camera down a second because it's starting to hurt my arm. I'll have to sit like this a minute. There we go. Give me a chance. Yeah, I don't suffer so much from black fly, but I grow my broad beans over winter, which does seem to stop black fly from creating too many problems. But spraying them with soapy water definitely does help. It's not helping much. Definitely does help get rid of the black fly. But the best thing I've got to say for black fly is trying to get your ladybirds in, and they will eat at the black fly and get rid of them that way. Graham Arnold has joined in saying, evening, I'm replacing my broad beans with celeriac and mini cole cabbages. Yeah, I tell you what, this brings me up to something that I've been thinking of doing. Now, my broad beans are still producing at the moment, but when they come out, and my shallots as well, the shallots are out, I've got these two beds that aren't, they will have some garlic and onions growing in them, but that won't be till September. But I've got a lot of tomato plants that are still in pots and haven't got a home for. And something that I've heard James Wong talk about quite a bit on one of his chats is that you can grow tomatoes, then produce one truss of flowers, and then prune them above that. And you can grow lots of tomato plants in a small space that way. And those tomatoes are meant to grow bigger and bigger. And this is where I think I'm going to do with these empty beds in order to make the most amount of use from them this year. Alon Jot Life has joined. Hello to you. Hope you are well. Turbo Stream is saying, I've had things swimming in my water but not usually fish. It's an unusual thing. The guy on the next plot to me adds some frog spawn to a couple of water butts, and as they turn into frogs, he adds a piece of wood for them to climb out, as we have lots of frogs and we have lots of frogs on this site. That's actually, that idea actually sits a bit more comfortable with me than sticking goldfish in the water butt. The idea of it being tadpoles and frogs does actually sit better with me. Stuart Jackson, the farm I worked on many years ago, they put goldfish in the water tanks in the cow yard. The cows don't worry about the fish, they just drank the water. I'm guessing they're the big old water troughs, which have a bit more room at the top. Katie John Rambo, goldfish really need high levels of oxygen in the water, so all of the fish, so all of their waste not getting cleaned, starts to suffocate them. They would need oxygenating plants to survive. Yeah, that's funny enough what I also thought. It needing oxygenating plants and needing fresh water coming in. It just seemed a bit balmy. The person who I read who done this was Bob Flowerdew, who's somebody I respect a lot in terms of gardening in the world. It just seemed a little bit on the crazy side to add goldfish into a water butt. Adrian is asking, is there a chemical to kill bat fly? There probably is, but I wouldn't use it myself. Allotment Life, I usually just blast aphids off with a jet of water. A bit like you're spraying your soapy water on, I guess. It just squirt it off and that gets rid of them. What else? Knowledge Quest. Most of the time, my allotment is dealing with bindweed and mare's tail. Yeah, that and couch grass is probably the three things on most allotments that cause their biggest headaches. Graham Arnold, I recently got some SB spray. Seems to work great on fly and aphids. If that's any use to anybody, again, I would look at trying to encourage ladybirds. I think they're the best way to do it. Stuart Jackson has a question. I covered the spuds leaves with grass clippings and the potatoes have disappeared. Will the spud be okay? Yes. Yes. Reason that you're covering over the with grass clippings is to basically mulch over the soil and block out any light from getting to the potatoes and stopping the potatoes from growing green. And it also encourages, or there's a bit of debate about this actually, but encourages many plants to grow more potatoes by mulching them with soil, compost, or grass clippings, as I've been doing this year. Got to get a working lawnmower down on the allotment again though, but it definitely does work. And I harvested, actually yesterday, I harvested some early potatoes from down on the allotment. That was going to be my cooking video today. I made some Mexican potatoes, but unfortunately I didn't get around to it because of this bloody headache. Can you hear me okay? Because I've just realised I'm leaning a bit further away from the microphone. What else have we got? I saw something and it's disappeared. Digwell has joined. Hello, hope you are well. And he also says, excuse me, SB Plant Invigorator. So I don't know if it's an organic pesticide, that stuff, or what. I've not used it myself. I try not to use chemicals, in all honesty. I try and stick with manual stuff, I guess, when it comes, or natural methods. But I'm not completely against using chemicals and things. I think, like anything, there's a place for it. Turbo Stream is also saying I'm not into chemical spraying on my crop. I think I planted them too early. I will direct sow next year. Yeah, I mean, I find when it comes to broad beans, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that's going to say this, the broad beans by sowing them over winter, looking October, November time, sow those then, and you don't tend to get too many problems with black fly because you generally harvested them before the black fly come along. And also you get an early crop of broad beans. And also, a reason I love doing it is it looks like something is growing in the plots over winter. It feels like, in the dark depths of winter when everything's just bleak and doesn't look like anything's growing. And then you've got these broad bean plants just growing away in the bed. For me, they're just a little mood lifter in the winter, which is another reason I tend to grow a lot of broad beans and even our overwintering onions over winter, as the name suggests. Okay, great. Everyone can hear me fine. I always worry about the sound because it's one thing I can't see as such. Don't forget, if you want to call in, 07307 135 174, and the link is in the chat, in the comments, if you want to zap yourself in and appear on screen. Don't forget to keep your comments coming in. If you've got any questions, then we'll all try and answer them together, and that's the idea of this entire show. So I was asking about keeping goldfish in water butts as a way of keeping or getting rid of the mosquito midges and mosquito larvae. And as I said, it was Bob Flowerdew who I read about this, and he said in every single water butt or water tank he has, he keeps goldfish. And I read it and I just felt it seemed a little bit cruel. It seemed very, very cruel. For me, the best way to keep mosquitoes or any bugs out of the water butt is to place a lid on it. It's simple, really, isn't it? Place a lid on it, then nothing can get in and lay its eggs in the water. In theory, that'll work, but in practice, it's not always the case that will work perfectly. You know, one of my water butts down by my other shed, where the tube comes in, I've had to cut away at the lid to fit the tube in. And of course, mosquitoes can probably get in there should they want to. But another idea I read on how to stop these I mean, they don't really bother me, so it's not really a huge problem. But another idea I read on how to keep mosquito larvae from your water butt was to pour a bit of olive oil or vegetable oil on the top of the water so that it creates a film on top of the water and the mosquito larvae can't survive, can't breathe. Now, again, I thought that's an interesting idea, but surely that oil is going to go off and start to smell after a while. I know we're only talking about a small bit of oil, but it just, again, it didn't seem quite right to me. I did like the idea of the goldfish, if I'm honest, but not from a goldfish point of view. If I had a clear tank, then perhaps that would be something I would look better at. So Ernie has joined. Good evening to you. Greetings, Richard, from a very wet Dorset. I will send you a video of our ground elder this week. Please do. Love to see how your ground elder is getting on and what's happening down there. Let's see if camera 1 is working yet. Nope, still fuzzy. Still fuzzy. I'm trying to figure out what's caused it. I wonder if it's... No, not what I thought it might be. Turbo stream. There we go. I'm slightly slower bringing in the comment up there. My allotment buddy who worked his plot for 20 years said it's too cold to overwinter broad beans here. I don't know. I've seen, or I've had broad beans grow when it's been pretty cold through snow and stuff. So if I remember right, you're Birmingham way, and I don't think you'll be too cold there. What I would, you've got nothing to lose by trying it, but just pop them in the ground. You can always pull over a little cloche or something to keep the worst of the weather off. But I think overwintering broad beans is probably worth a shot. Worth a shot is what I'm saying. And I don't think really there's any difference between overwintering broad beans and spring sowing broad beans, other than the fact they don't get black fly and you get them a couple of weeks earlier. Digwell is saying about the SP plant invigorator that he swears by the stuff and it's good for mildew too. Yeah, I think I've seen the stuff. I've not tried it myself. I will have to look into it. Something I do quite often get is mildew, powdery mildew, particularly on my courgettes, which is just one of those fungal diseases you learn to live with, isn't it? You expect it. I could spray milk onto the courgette leaves when I get powdery mildew, but I've never really worried too much about it, in all honesty. It's just how it is. Ian McGorgan, I've been feeding my veg with seaweed extract just now, finding it expensive. Anyone know where you can get it, or tried nettle tea or comfrey? So seaweed extract processed can be quite expensive, I agree. What you could do quite simply is head down to a beach, get a load of seaweed and make your own seaweed extract or seaweed feed. Just similar to comfrey or nettle, put it into a bucket of water, let it steep for a while, and you'll see how it and it should create a little bit of feed. The other thing I'm going to do with my asparagus is actually mulch over the asparagus with some seaweed. Obviously, it's easy for me because I'm 10 minutes walk from the seafront, and get a good storm, get a load of seaweed will wash up. This week, I finally got my hay in despite the rain. It was not too bad. That reminds me of something that I've been watching this week, and I binge watched it, and I've got to say it's probably been one of the best things I've watched on TV. Well, not even on TV, actually, on Amazon Prime, but the best thing I've watched for a long time. That was Clarkson's Farm. I think that's what it's called. Absolutely brilliant piece of filming, and shows the sort of how difficult it is for farmers and what they're up against, and entertaining as well. I was hooked. I was just sad there was only 8 episodes, because we watched that within a week, and a brilliant bit of TV. Turbo Stream says he might try and get a short row in this year. Birmingham can get really cold in winter. Give it a try. Give it a try. I don't think you've got anything to lose. Stuart Jackson says he overwintered his broad beans in Wiltshire, so they have a go. They'll work in Wiltshire, so they should work in Birmingham. But you've got to get the right variety. Aquadolce Claudio is a good variety to try for that. Or the other one, I think, is the Saturn. In McGorgan, or this is from Knowledge Quest, get bags or buckets of seaweed from the beach and make your own seaweed for your plants or veg, which is exactly what I was saying as well. Graham Arnold, I overwintered broad beans, got a decent crop, but not as many as usual. Late frost knocked a lot of the flowers off. Spring sowing next year. Yeah, that late frost was a bit of a problem. But again, it depends on how many broad beans you eat. We don't actually eat that many. I grow them because I like them, but we don't eat all that many in it. Well, my wife certainly doesn't. And therefore, I don't mind if we don't get many in some ways. I've still had some in the freezer from last year up until recently. Excuse me. So, Beatrice, the plot I have moved in this year, is heavy clay with poor drainage. So I was thinking of sowing field beans over winter. Anyone else do this? I've tried in the past to sow field beans. I think my trouble is that I still have stuff in the ground right up as late as December. So it's too late to sow field beans for an overwintering crop. But I definitely think it's something you could. I definitely think field beans are the way to go. Phacelia I found to be a really good overwintering green manure. I've spoken about this many times on the allotment, but field beans, if you can get your ground emptied before you sow, or even sown before you empty, perhaps, definitely something to try. Let's see if anybody else has sown field beans over winter. Dabo Stream is saying it's a long drive from the sea to the sea from Birmingham. We'll stick to chicken manure pellets. Yeah. that's always the trouble with the seaweed. I think it's fantastic, but it's a long way to go. Digwell Greenfingers has said overwintering broad beans will never give the same yield as springstone ones. Is it worth it just to get them a fortnight early? I think I said earlier, I only really grow overwintering broad beans these days. Springstone ones are great, but I like overwintering ones. I like them. They come, like I say, a fortnight early, but they don't get the black fly attacking them. They produce a good enough crop for us, but I do grow quite a few of them, and we'll keep them in our freezer. We've kept them in our freezer for a year, so yeah, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It all depends what you want to do. I tell you what, should we have a quick look at some photos that have came in? Where's my notes? Oh, God, kicking everything now. I've got some notes just here. Let's have a quick look at the photos that I've been sent this week. These photos came in on the Veg Grower Podcast Facebook group or by email. So first of all, this is TurboStream, who is in the comments, as you are no doubt hearing. And last week he spoke about creating a seed bed with under a cold frame. And this is what he's using for that. He's also shared these pictures of what looks like beetroot, grown really, really well, I've got to say, looking really nice and luscious. And his cabbages. And these are the pictures the wrong way around. Unfortunately, it seems to have changed itself without me knowing. But these are marigolds. Next, oh no, this is another one of TurboStream's, his potatoes. I've got to say, I feel it's been a good year for potatoes this year. They all seem to be growing incredibly well. This came in from Stephen Tysehurst, who's also in the group tonight, and he shared these pictures of his chilies, and he's really impressed with the one on the right and the size of it. Looks like an average Italian style pepper, but hot. And I've got to say, my mouth watered when I saw this. He's also had a coffee break on his allotment, looking out across his grounds on the top of the South Downs. A poppy that seems to have appeared on his allotment. Let me give it a that. Poppy that has appeared on his allotment as well. Looks something about poppies that just seem to pop up all over the place. And back at home, he is impressed with his potatoes, like we were saying just now. They are growing rather big, plenty of beautiful flowers, looking great. Now, this came in from Stuart Jackson. These are his broad beans. Seems fitted as we seem to be talking about broad beans a lot tonight. These are growing well. He's harvested this lot. And what else have we got? And he's also been harvesting his gooseberries. Next, Durka in British Columbia, Canada, has shared this picture of his jalapenos growing away. She says she loves the look of them, but she's not keen on jalapenos herself due to being too hot. And there was this picture of this flower, which I'm not sure what it is. I don't think it's the jalapeno, but it is a beautiful looking flower regardless. Where are we? Ian Beddoes. And this is something he's been telling me about and I've been following quite closely. He sowed some rhubarb seeds and they seem to have germinated really quite well, as you can see in these pictures. At first I was a bit unsure if they were rhubarb or something like Swiss chard, but I looked into it further and it certainly does look like rhubarb seedlings. Ian Beddoes is known for his comedy images that he shares in our group, and this is one of them. Somebody with a sign who can't spell perennial so has said flowers that come back. I mean, why not? Why not indeed? Um, and then Philly SPB very kindly also sent over some pictures this evening. This looks like his allotment plot that he works with Linda. Carrots growing in some pots. I've got to say, they look fantastic, look really nice and healthy growth. But this next picture just shows how he's placed these carrots high up off the ground, maximizing space and making it easy to look after. And here we've got some brassicas and some peas, all are looking really nice and healthy, although it looks like possibly rain or something has been nibbling at some of the leaves on the brassicas down the front there. And sweet corn also looking rather fantastic. So let's head back. Head back to the scene, because I can see we've got somebody just sat in the. Let's see who this is. Hello, mate.
Good evening, Rich. You all right, mate?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
Yeah, really good. I'm sort of quite lucky, really. We haven't had any rain today, so we've sort of been out in the garden most of the day. It's been good.
Fantastic, fantastic. I've got to say, loved your broad beans and your gooseberry pictures that I've just shown.
Yeah, I've never picked so many gooseberries. That's one bush. 2.5 kilos from one bush. So I don't know what's, I've never kicked, well, normally, I'll be honest, normally the birds get there before I do.
Yeah.
So I've tried a bit harder this year to keep on top of things.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you going to do with all the gooseberries?
Oh, they're in the freezer. Cooking, I can cook, but that's not my department. I just grow the veg.
Fair. Oh, good enough.
I'm impressed, though. The reason I rang in, is I'm super impressed with Mr. Beddoes, young Ian, with his growing rhubarb from seed.
Yeah. Yeah, that blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. To the point I
didn't even know you could do it.
I knew you could do it. I mean, obviously rhubarb has to come from seed somewhere.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've heard a lot of people do it from splitting the roots. But after seeing that, I've been looking more into growing them from seed. It does take a long time before you can produce anything, a couple of years, maybe 3, but they can be sown from seed.
I just wondered how long it took to germinate. Is it a long germination?
I think he said they were quite quick. He's not in the comments tonight, or he was earlier. I'm not sure if he still is. Oh no, I didn't. He's just said I didn't know until I saw the packet. So he's still there. How long did it take for them to germinate, Ian? Let's find out from that.
I think it's brilliant. I worked really hard last year on lemongrass, if you remember, but I lost it over winter, so I'm going to have to start again. And I know we had some in the. I didn't sow the ones that you sent out because I thought, oh, mine are going to survive, but they didn't. So I'm going to have to sow. Is it too late for that now to sow the lemongrass?
I think you should be okay still.
Yeah.
But the trouble, I had the same trouble with you whenever I grow lemongrass. Getting it through the winter is a struggle. So I think they need to come into somewhere warm in order to survive the winter.
Yeah, my greenhouse is heated, 85% of the time, but it's that one night you forget to light it and it drops.
Yeah.
But it's just now finding things to replace the gaps, like pull the onions up. The garlic are going to come up next week. It's finding stuff to go in them gaps that I don't have to cover too much because I get blighted with pigeons.
Yeah.
So, like you do with seagulls.
Yeah. I mean, straight away I thought radish, lettuce, that can fill the gaps quite nicely.
Yeah.
Herbs, lots of things that you can go.
Yeah, I've done really well actually because I've got I put the lettuce in that came in. Was it last month? Was it iceberg last month? I put the seedlings out today undercover, and my herbs have done amazing. I've got I can't remember what they're called now. What did come out last month? Can't remember what came out last month. But whatever it was, oregano. Was it oregano?
Yeah.
Was that the month before? I can't remember. But I sown that. It come up really well. So no, it wasn't. It was tarragon, wasn't it?
Thyme was sown.
Tarragon's come up this month.
Tarragon was back in the winter, if I remember right.
Yeah, well, so I put them in the ground rather than put them in pots. I put them in the ground because I've got ground to spare at the moment. So I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. It's a bit like over in winter in your boiled beans. I think it's a good ground. I'm like you. I think if there's something in the ground, it looks better.
Yeah.
And I didn't cover my boiled. I only covered my boiled beans for about a week, maybe a fortnight this year. I know we had a mildish winter, but I had no black fly at all. So and that was home and school. School ones were, there must have been about 40 plants at school.
Yeah.
So, so I think overwintering is, if you've got the space, you might as well do it, I think.
I think it does depend on what people's results are like. I mean, I prefer overwintering mainly because I know then I'm going to get the broad beans harvested before who disappeared there, both did. I know I'm generally going to get the broad beans. I haven't got to worry too much about them, but when I get busy at work is usually when broad beans are spring sown ones. You're busy with those, so for me it's a time-saving thing to make sure I get the food to come in. But I'm sure like spring sown onions, the result that they store better when they are sown in the spring, but that doesn't stop me from doing the overwintering ones when I get better results.
I can't understand because you said your onions were quite small, mine are quite small, and we grew the same ones. It's either a bad year for the seed or it was just a bad year.
I think it was a bad year because I grow several different types of onions, and they're all pretty much the same, bit on the small side, not exactly anything to shout about.
Yeah. I use mine just the same.
Sorry, say that again?
You use them just the same.
Use them just the same, exactly. Always, nothing goes to waste in this house.
Right, I better let somebody else call in because somebody else might, you never know.
Before you go, Ian Beddoes, with regards to the rhubarb, he's saying they were quite quick in the tray in the greenhouse when I split them into small pots before putting them outside. P.S. No heat in the greenhouse, so quite
that's
quick.
Great then.
It's something to think about, isn't it?
It is, because as you know, I killed my rhubarb, which is impossible, I know, but I killed it. Yeah. So it's just options, I go and buy a few cores and then I will buy some seed, I think, and see what happens. Because even if I buy the root system, it's going to take, I won't harvest next year, will I?
You want to leave them for about a year to establish that minimum.
Yeah, so it's sort of going to be, so there's sort of 3 years for seed and then at least 1 year for the other way. Oh, all right then. How much space? I suppose you just leave it and then it just gets bigger and bigger. So you give it as much space as you can.
Yeah. I mean, I've got in a 2.4 meter by 1 meter bed. I've got 3 rhubarb plants.
Yeah,
they probably do need splitting up pretty soon because they are getting big and they are reaching that 5-year period where you really should split them up. But they're doing okay.
So is that the same as I would with a perennial flower? Just put the spade through the middle.
Yeah. Really, when you want to split into 3, so you replant the outers and the middle, the woody bit, gets thrown away.
Okay. Okay, I think there might be some at work that needs doing then. I might get some that way round.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich.
All right. Thank you very much, Stuart. All the best.
That's all right. Take care.
Take care. So there we go. That was Stuart Jackson zapping himself in and going from there. If you want to do the same, the link is going up in the comments right now, or you can call in on 07307 135 174. Number is running across the bottom of the screen. A quick few comments. Digwell is saying lemongrass, just buy some from Tesco's and pop them up, saves you a few years. Yeah, but fresh homegrown lemongrass does taste so much better than the dried out stuff Tesco sell. I've got to say that. It does taste a lot better. Ian McGorgan is saying, having brought rhubarb commercially, they are plants that are split. So top job, that man. There you go, Ian. A lot of appreciation for this seed. Rhubarb's grown from seeds. Graham Arnold, I had allium minor last year for the first time on my leeks. This year they've got the onions and shallots. I've covered the leeks with mesh when I planted them out. Hope that helps. I hear this is one of those things I'm going to have to touch with, because allium minor is another thing I've never really suffered with, but I can see why it's been a bit of a pain in the bottom and issues that comes with that. Hopefully netting it, and you have to let us know if it works, netting them has kept out the allium minor. I'm sure there must be some natural predators for those as well, which would be great to encourage. Again, it's one of those things. I've not had the problem myself, so I've not had to deal with it. Digwell is saying, rhubarb seeds, so March to April outdoors and transplant to permanent positions during the following autumn, winter. Yeah, that's exactly what I was reading up about it, and plan to do actually. I think I'm going to try and grow some rhubarb from seed just to see if it can be done, and part of an idea I've got in the making of growing things like that. Excuse me. This is part of my headache. I've had this sort of gassy and my stomach's turning. I haven't eaten all day, which probably doesn't help, but just don't think I can. Digwell, no, the Tesco stuff grows into plants 3 feet high and then you harvest them. I've grown lemongrass. It's got 3 foot high and I've used it fresh from the garden. It is delicious. Also used when I worked in a hotel, I would have to go and harvest some lemongrass leaves for them to use as well, which you can't get from a Tesco's. But I do take your point. Lemongrass is incredibly difficult to grow and to keep growing it. It can be quite expensive compared to how cheap they sell it in Tesco's. And a few years ago, I went to, it was the Ideal Home Show, and they sold some big packs of lemongrass, actually a lot cheaper than what it would have cost in Tesco's. And that was really, really good tasting stuff, actually, but cheap. Unfortunately, I haven't found that supplier since. But yeah. Ian Beddoes is saying, after such praise, I will kill them off in the next few weeks. Well, I hope you don't do that on purpose, Ian, because I really am impressed with your rhubarb plants, and I want to see just how well they get on, because they are looking damn good. Idaho Garden Girl has joined. Hello, hope you are well. We're having camera issues again today, so number one is still doing this weird screen. I'm hoping it's something simple. I'll have a look later on. And Stuart Jackson is thanking Digwell. I think I will buy some lemongrass, but also grow some. Yeah, there we go. So let's move around more. Yeah, lemongrass. Very, very difficult to grow. I've grown it from seed. But the biggest problem I found with it is actually keeping it growing throughout the winter, so you can have it the following year. This. Right. What have I done? Well, something I did today, actually, and I don't know if anybody out there is watching. I went to a community garden in Crawley in a youth centre, and it's one of these that the people have got two plots, one in a school, one in this youth centre, and the youth centre one is a couple of allotment plots in an allotment site literally across the park from the youth centre. And the idea being going to get all these youths to try growing their own food, take those skills on and learn how to cook them and that sort of thing. And the person in charge, I've got to say, was probably one of the most enthusiastic person I have met in this subject. Can you hear me okay when I lean like that? Actually, one of the most enthusiastic people I've met is, I think he played in a band as a trade, but he worked in this youth centre. He set up this garden. He was growing lots of really good looking veg. Potatoes looked beautiful. Calabrese, the calabrese bigger than my hand. Fantastic. And it got me thinking about these community gardens and how we can reach out to other people and get them working. The only trouble I fear is probably people like myself and many of you guys out there who know how to garden. They've got their own gardens, got their own allotments. To go and then dedicate time to a community garden as well, especially if you're working like many of us are, probably don't have the time, which it feels a shame to lose out on that, but it has to be done. It's necessary, isn't it? But that's coming on the podcast tomorrow. We're going to hear about the interview I had with this group of people and a bit of a tour. But I've left there feeling like I like the idea of setting up a community garden and doing it, but do I really have the time? What's your thoughts on that? Knowledge Quest is saying, when is the best time to harvest horseradish and how best to harvest it to keep it coming back? Right. Horseradish can pretty much be harvested now if it's big enough. And what I would do, dig up a root and cut the root into a few pieces, replant the bottom of the root, replant that, and it should regrow, and therefore you'll get another piece of horseradish. In fact, you could probably plant two, that way you're going to get two pieces of two more plants of horseradish, and then harvest your other piece. And then carry that on with because if you plant two pieces, you've then got two plants and you're eating one. Follow that on, you'll then have 4 horseradish plants because you've cut those up. That's how I've done it when I've grown horseradish in the past. You can harvest them as late into autumn. There's no rush to get it done now. They do tend to go a bit woodier, and if you're very lucky, you might even see it throughout the winter. That's probably the best time to harvest it, I think, is probably autumn, when it's a bit more. It's got all that energy from the leaves, and it's built the root system up. But yeah, that's how I would personally do it. If anybody else out there has any ideas on that they would like to share, then please do get it in touch. Stuart Jackson, this is what I love about the Veg Army. Everyone is happy to give advice. Thanks, team. Yeah, most welcome. And this is what I love about this as well, sharing advice and getting conversation and people just chatting about their gardening experience and what everybody is doing in their gardens. It's one of those fantastic things that we are lucky to do. Right. I really need to go now because my head is absolutely pounding. So it's going to be a short one this evening. Apologies for that, but I think I need to go out of here and go get some sleep so that I can get ready for work. I don't know why I feel like this, but Just do. But thanks so much for joining me again this week. It's been a pleasure as always. We've been chatting a lot about overwintering broad beans, overwintering onions, keeping goldfish in water butts. There's a lot that we've gone through. As I said on the podcast this week, we've got this interview I made with this community garden, and that's out Monday night, and I'll be going into that in a lot more detail. Next Sunday we'll be back. We'll be back next Sunday. And my current thinking, no, I've just realised I've done that before. So we'll come up with a subject for next Sunday, but 6 o'clock, right here, back again. Until then, please take care. I'll speak to you again next time. If I can find the button.